man, I want to help folks. I want to cast hope. We do that every day. We're telling these families about getting their homes. If we can encourage them, and give them some hope, that we got opportunities to do that like crazy. Now, when it gets darker and harder, that's when we can be the light bearers and we can share hope with a ton of people.
Hey, Tom family, Michael Kuntz here again. I'm excited today. We've got another great edition of Tom Talk, and now I get to sit down and talk with the man, the myth, the legend, Eddie Skinner, the mortgage pastor. And I got to tell you, Eddie, it's great to have you on here. I'm excited. I always look forward to speaking to people that I know make me better every day, and you certainly do that. So thank you for being a part of this conversation.
Well, I appreciate that, Michael. You are the man, the myth, and the legend, baby. So it's always good, talking to a fellow believer, even though you went to that other school.
Right. That school right there, right? So, Eddie, you joined us last year, you and the Storehouse Mortgage team, early 2021. And we have just been literally blessed since that day to have you guys on board. But when did you get into mortgage overall? When did you join this mortgage industry, this crazy industry they call mortgage?
So it's kind of a painful story, but 2008, we joined the mortgage industry after I had been in the ministry for 23 years and pastored for 10 years in Tomball, which is northwest of Houston. And we had a church split, merged with a pretty large church in our area, signed over to them about $5 million worth of stuff, which was God's money, not our money. And then they, about 18 months later, let me go and said, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And so a buddy of mine said, hey, man, you ought to do mortgages. And so you guys that have been in this for a lot longer than me know that was the worst time ever to get in the mortgage industry. And it'd be similar to somebody jumping in right now and said, hey, let's jump in and do this. And so that's when I got in, and man, just learned it the hard way, and been working hard ever since.
So I have to ask you then, you started your career in 2008.
Yep.
And fast forward, here we sit in a very interesting climate. And I've actually heard many people compare the climate we're in today to 2008. But what say you, Eddie?
Very similar. When I started, I went to, and like for our leaders that may listen to this, I encourage them, don't do this. When I started, my buddy said, hey, you'd be great at mortgages. And I said, okay. And so I jumped in and I told him, I love helping people. I'm great at the numbers. I got a math mind, so I see the numbers. And I said, man, I love doing this, but where's the business come from? And my buddy, I had led him to Christ at my church. And so he's in the mortgage industry and he had a lot of experience. He said, man, it just comes. And I said, well, I know tons of people, but it's not just coming. So I actually rejoined that group this past year, but I found the Mortgage Marketing Animals and the Freedom Club, found those guys, and was coached by Scotty Hudspeth. And man, I learned the basics of, hey, you got to make phone calls, you got to grind, and so we did that the first couple of years. We just made phone calls. I didn't know the easy part of, hey,
yeah, you hadn't seen the build up to that. That's right.
No. Yeah. I had friends in the industry that would say, man, we used to make 5 and 6 points on deals, and man, if somebody could breathe on a mirror, they would get approved for a loan, and we were just cranking them through and making them. I had never seen that, and so all I knew is the hard part, and so CFPB and all the restrictions and all the stuff. That's what we knew, and so that's what I've grown up in.
Yeah.
Got away from that a little bit and started trying different methods and stuff, and rejoined the Freedom Club. So I was out of the Freedom Club for about 7 years, and I actually told Carl White the other day, I said, man, I regret getting out because we're catching up on some stuff. And so, I hear folks saying, hey, you got to get back to the basics. Well, that is how I do business. That's how you do business. It's like,
Right.
hey, face to face, belly to belly, you talk to folks, you call folks, you love them folks, you serve them, and just try to help them. And there's business out there. And so that's what I
good.
look at and think, man, let's go get our share. What's our share? God knows what we need to get, and we just need to be faithful and going forward, asking, serving, loving, and seeing what God does. So.
Right. Well, so while I'm sitting here and we're playing look back, now let's look forward. What from your amazing Kreskin hat, what do you see in the next 6 months or so? What do you think?
We believe Texas is a attractive place for folks to move to and live. So I think our values are going to keep increasing anywhere in Texas. We've been told Arizona, Texas, and Florida. Those three states, values will keep increasing because our inventory is low and our values are high. And so I share that with every agent I talk to, every client I talk to, and say, hey, now's the time to buy. You don't want to wait till next year because you're going to pay 10 to 15% more on that house than what, and so that's where I look at and I think, hey, man, don't use the market as any excuse for not buying a house, growing your business, doing whatever. It's like embrace the times and do the basics. So
good, man. No, I agree. I think we're well positioned here in the state of Texas, and we're well positioned in even states where we're starting to grow into. So you run a very successful branch. You're doing some great things. You're building brand recognition out in the marketplace for Storehouse. How do you do it? How do you, when you think about building an effective team, what's kind of your philosophy?
I look for servants. I just tell my guys, hey, if you're not a servant, you won't fit us. You won't fit Tom. We could teach you the other stuff if you're teachable. I had an agent recently that told me she's 2 months away from going under. And so she's really hit some hard times and she's 2 months away from going under. So I as a pastor, that just hurts me. I think, man, I want to help her. And so we got extra offices up here. I offered her an office and said, hey, come up here, just be around us. You can make your calls, do your marketing, whatever you need to do. Just come use an office. I talked to one of my coaches, a friend who is a business coach, highly successful business coach for larger organizations. I talked to him and said, hey, what would you tell her? And he said, shared a couple of things. He said, man, she doesn't want to be the victim, and so he said, she's either a mentor or a mentee. Don't be the victim. If you're the victim, you're sunk. And then he volunteered. He said, let me do a 1-hour coaching for her. I'll do it for free. Just tell her I'll do it for free. We'll look at her systems and I'll kind of share with her what I'm sharing with you. And let's just see if it can't help her. And so I called her on Monday to offer her that. And she made this statement. She said, I just don't think I need coaching.
Wow.
And I thought, man, I just turned 60. So I actually feel like an old fart, but I look and I told my wife, man, I got to set some bigger goals. I got to dream some bigger dreams. I got to push harder, in balance, loving life and loving my family and loving the Lord and serving folks and doing the right stuff. But man, we got to dream some bigger dreams. And, that's what I look for with our team is, hey, guys, dream your dreams. How many families do you want to help? What type of volume do you want to do? What's your life look like 3 years, 5 years from now? How can I help you the last few years that I serve and do? How can I help you get positioned for that to launch your career and be successful? And so, we are wholeheartedly following what we call the DSP, which is the daily success plan. And so we're making calls 9 to 11 every morning, Monday through Thursday. We're making calls. Our goal is 30 phone calls every day. Some folks have said, hey, that's kind of stupid. That's old school. But I think, man, that's working. There's the Storehouse comes from Malachi chapter 3. The whole idea is, hey, if we teach folks to do money God's way, then, man, he's going to bless these families. He'll bless us. He'll bless our referral partners and stuff. And so he's faithful. And so when we share about Storehouse, it's a chance to drip a little Jesus on folks, really
Like
regularly. And so, man, we love just sharing and saying, hey, man, God's been good. Don't lose sight of him in your business. Don't lose sight of him with what he wants to do in your life, and, cling to him. So that was our attraction to Trinity Oaks, is just the whole faith step I saw in you, I saw in Todd, John Picnic, John Houston, just the heartbeat of the company. I thought, man, we fit. And so I just look at it and say, how can I be a contributor to my team, to Tom's team, to folks around us, to say, hey, hopefully when we're out of here, folks will say, hey, Michael made a difference in my life. And, that's what probably they say about Eddie. So
you're making a difference for sure, man. So as you and thank you, by the way, John Houston, Tracy Houston, the whole family of companies, leadership team thanks you. Because you're right, our missions align. Our mission is to reach people for Christ and give it to the kingdom, and you do that. You guys do that so well. If you look back on your career, whether it's in this industry or in other, as you were pastoring, is there any one person that you think, that person made an impact in my life?
There's a couple. So I had a grandpa that was very faithful, and man, he was married to my grandmother for 62 years. He loved her well. He put up with a lot of stupid stuff and goofy stuff, and just loved. He served in World War II, and so he was a bodyguard for General Patton, and he was a quiet, not silent, but quiet leader. He didn't, the war impacted him to a great extent to where he really wouldn't talk about a lot of that stuff. But man, he was just I remember going to their house every morning. I'd see him sitting on the swing, smoking a cigarette, which I thought, man, bad habit, smoking a cigarette and reading his Bible, and my mom told me, she said, that's back in the day when Andy Griffith smoked on TV, it's like he was a hero and they just didn't know any better. But man, he loved the Lord. He served the Lord. He was just a humble servant. And so my mom, who was his daughter, is my second hero. My mom was a administrator for 25 doctors. She basically babysat 25 radiologists for 40 years. And she never went to college. She had a high school graduation, but man, she was a hoss, a humble leader who loved and served. She modeled servant leadership, and then my youth pastor, Gary Payne, he's in Florida now, but my youth pastor just walked alongside me in high school, college. Even to this day, if I have something I'm kind of wrestling with or struggling with, I call him. He's about 10 years older than me. And man, we just pick up right where we left off. And,
Love that.
And I think, man, those three people, there's been others along the way, other coaches and different ones in business and stuff. But man, those three people impacted me early on and kind of set the pace for, hey, be a humble servant, be a leader, don't be afraid. I think if I were going to share a lesson that I learned that I wished I'd learned quicker, is pray more. God's way more powerful. We think we can fix stuff that we can't, and he can. And so when we get on our faces before him and just say, hey, God, this is your deal. It's not my deal. I preached a sermon once on Philippians 4. It talked about basic, and I read this from Chuck Swindoll, but he said, when you hit challenges, you got two choices. You can pray or you can worry. And that's all straight out of Philippians 4. And he said, man, when you're worrying, your knees are knocking, that means they're not on the floor praying. And he said, man, you get your knees on the floor and you start praying, your knees quit knocking. So you either worry about it and think, hey, Eddie's somehow going to fix this, or you pray about it and then do what he tells you, but when we get our knees on the floor, it's amazing how he changes stuff. And, so I wish, looking back, I'd have learned that quicker. It's like, even now I look at it and I think, hey, this market can make you nervous.
Sure.
And I think when when I wake up nervous, I just remember that lesson, man. You got to get on your face and pray, And so anyway,
awesome, man. A lot of wisdom right there, and thank you again for I keep going back to the fact that God has a purpose for every single one of us, and for you to bump into Todd back in December of, I guess, 2020, right at the end of the biggest year, one of the biggest years we've ever had. But you saw Todd, you saw something different in him, and in turn, we now brought these two great organizations together. Well, Eddie, thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. It's great doing life with you, doing business with you, and nothing but the greatness for the Storehouse team down there. I wish you guys the best.
Appreciate that. Love you guys. And if we can ever help with anything for anybody, man, that's my coach once asked me, he said, do you feel called to do mortgage or do you feel called to pastor? And I told him, I said, man, I feel called to help people.
Right.
So I said, when I was preaching, if I couldn't cast some hope for folks somehow in that sermon, then it discouraged me. And so, I want to help folks. I want to cast hope. We do that every day. We're telling these families about getting their homes. If we can encourage them, and give them some hope, that we got opportunities to do that like crazy. Now, when it gets darker and harder, that's when we can be the light bearers and we can share hope with a ton of people. So.
Awesome way to close it, man. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it.
Have a great rest of your day, man. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye, Michael.